as solar tariff d.eadline looms and ITC reaffirms position. In anticipation of tariffs that may be levied on solar cell and module imports, foreign solar manufacturers doubled what they shipped to the U.S. in November 2017 compared to November 2016. That's according to trade data seen by the Wall Street Journal. Further ReadingITC suggests Trump impose up to a 35% tariff on imported solar modules. The trade data reflects that importers hope to take advantage of good market conditions before any tariffs are imposed. And a new report from the International Trade Commission, ITC, released last week suggests their efforts won't be wasted. The new supplemental report offers, PDF, some additional support to the Trump administration if it tries to bring a tariff decision before the World Trade Organization, WTO. Specifically, the report suggests that China took advantage of the existence of programs implemented by the U.S. government to encourage renewable energy consumption and that the U.S. couldn't have foreseen that market shift. The solar cell and module tariffs in question will be decided on or before January 26 by President Donald Trump. The president is permitted to make any tariff decision he pleases if the International Trade Commission, ITC, finds that trade conditions harmed a certain U.S. industry. In September 2017, the ITC made just such a finding, saying that U.S. solar manufacturers had been harmed by cheap foreign imports of solar cells and modules. Oddly enough, the tariffs are opposed not just by the wider renewable energy industry, but by many Trump-supporting, right-leaning groups. They claim the tariffs would muddy a free market while the industry argues that it has benefited from being able to sell low-cost panels to residential solar customers. However, even if Trump decides in favor of the most stringent tariffs suggested by the ITC, that is, a 35% tariff on all imported solar modules and a 4-year, 30% tariff on large cells, or if he decides on an even more punitive tariff, Bloomberg notes that such a tariff would have a difficult time getting the approval of the WTO. In fact, the U.S. has lost every time a tariff decided in a similar fashion has been challenged at the WTO. To win at the WTO, a company must show it was blindsided by foreign competition that could not have been reasonably foreseen, while the U.S. law only requires companies to show they were harmed, Bloomberg writes. In December, a U.S. trade representative for the Trump administration asked the ITC for more information on any unforeseen developments that led to U.S.-based solar manufacturers being harmed by a free trade environment, presumably to rebut any challenge to new tariffs from the WTO on those grounds. The supplemental report from the ITC answers that request. In it, the ITC argues that the current solar panel trade situation in the U.S. was wholly unforeseen. When cheap solar panels started becoming available, the ITC writes, the U.S. exercised anti-dumping laws on Chinese manufacturers. The U.S. did this based on the fact that China offered preferential loans and taxes to solar panel manufacturers and provided polysilicon, land, and electricity for less than adequate remuneration, among other incentives. But those anti-dumping measures didn't do much, the ITC says, because the 6 largest firms that were making cells and modules in China increased their manufacturing capacity in additional countries, especially Korea, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. The large and attractive nature of the U.S. market and the large and growing size of the export-oriented foreign industries caused U.S. imports of solar cell products to increase both absolutely and relative to domestic production in each year since 2012. Reaching record highs in 2016, the ITC writes. The Commission continues, U.S. negotiators also could not have foreseen that the U.S. government's use of authorized tools, such as anti-dumping and countervailing duty measures on imports from China, would have limited effectiveness and instead lead to rapid changes in the global supply chains and manufacturing processes in order to facilitate U.S. imports of non-covered products from China and Taiwan and later U.S. imports from Chinese producers' affiliates in other countries. Naturally, the primary opponent of solar panel import tariffs, the Solar Energy Industry Association, disagrees with the ITC assessment. President and CEO Abigail Ross Hopper said in a statement, This ITC report fails to adequately prove its own conclusion, and we do not see it surviving WTO scrutiny, should it come to that. The current solar market, including its production and trade patterns, was both foreseeable and predicted by experts across the globe. She added, "What's also been predicted are the inevitable job losses in the U.S. and economic harm if tariffs are imposed on one of the fastest-growing industries in America. We urge the President to put America first and say no to solar tariffs. For now, the threat of tariffs may be causing the very market conditions that this administration seeks to prevent." Besides increased solar panel imports, the Wall Street Journal reports that imports of residential washing machines, steel, and aluminum have all increased considerably in recent months following tariff threats. After washing machine maker Whirlpool asked for tariffs similar to those recommended for the solar panel industry, washing machine imports doubled in November. Analysts speaking to the Wall Street Journal said an additional 6 months' worth of washing machine imports could enter the U.S. before any tariffs go into effect.